You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by the National Association of Convenience Stores.
Welcome once again to Convenience Matters, where we talk about things that matter to convenience stores. And if they matter to convenience stores, they matter to about half of the U.S. population, because half of the U.S. population is in a convenience store every day, whether buying gas or coming inside the store. And, of course, the other half comes back the next day, we hope. And my name is Jeff Leonard. I'm with the National Association of Convenience Stores, and I'm joined by my regular co-host.
I'm John Eichberg with the Fuels Institute at NACS, and as Jeff said, we talk about the things that fuel you, fuel your car, keep you going. Convenience stores are the center of the daily transaction in the United States, and we make sure that you keep your life on a fast path forward. So we're glad to have you join us today.
And there is no time of the year more so than convenience stores are an important part of daily existence than in the summer. And John and I have pulled together some research just looking at what we already knew, that convenience store sales peak in the summer. And we just want to talk about some of the trends, what we see out there, and what you might see in your stores or what you might see as a customer visiting your stores. So, John, one of the things you did is you looked at some of our we have a database where we can look at sales and track them, and you looked at overall sales. How do they differ in the June, July, August, summer months and the rest of the year?
Well, if you think about it, convenience stores are where people go to get ready to go on trips. And during the summer, people are on the road a lot more. They're out having fun. They're having a good time. And we are an industry that sells a lot of fun products. We sell a lot of necessity products like gasoline and water and stuff like that. But people like to come to our stores during the daylight, during the warm weather. And what we have found is over the last couple of years, at the very least, the summer months, our total transactions are 4.5% higher than they are the rest of the year. Now, you may not think that's a lot, but when you're talking about 160 million transactions a day, a 4.5% increase is a huge jump. And we were seeing that because people are coming to our stores more often. They're out and about. Daylight savings time came about. Convenience stores benefit greatly because the extended hours make people stay out and about a lot longer. And when they're out and about, what are they doing? They're swinging by our stores and picking up stuff for their parties. It's great.
Yeah, and there are some areas of the country where there's less seasonality, where it's always summer or always fall or spring or something like that. But when you're on the East Coast and some other areas of the country, when it's wintertime and that sun sets around 4:30, 5 o'clock, the feeling is it's cold. I'm just going to go straight home. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the road because you might have weather issues on the streets. But in the summer months, those all evaporate. Those short hours in the winter, daylight hours in the winter, mean long daylight hours in the summer. You're playing softball, you're barbecuing, you're hanging out. And as part of that experience, you're coming to the convenience store. And the Fuels Institute, John, also looks at a lot of issues related to demand. And we're not just seeing demand inside the store. We're seeing demand at the fuel pump.
Yeah, it's interesting because every year we've been tracking this now, you and I, for about 15 years. And between February and beginning of summer, we start seeing an increase in fuel prices. And there's a lot of factors for that. One of them is the fact that demand does go up. You look at Department of Energy numbers, and the average increase in fuel demand nationally during the summer months is about 1.5%, 2% over the rest of the year. That does not sound like a lot, but this country consumes 9 million barrels of gasoline a day. A 1% increase is 900,000 barrels, right? Is that right? No, 90,000 barrels. But 90,000 barrels is the size of a refinery. And so you're thinking about it. Just because the weather gets nicer and the days get longer, we are actually increasing our demand by almost an entire refinery. That is a big, big chunk of fuel that is coming through our stores because people are on the road. And that is something that the industry benefits from, but it's something that does have an effect on the market overall.
And I think the difference between the low in February for the month for demand, for gasoline demand, and the peak in August, which is usually mid-August, and some of it has to do with people driving on summer vacation, on trips and whatnot, the total difference is about 10%. So then you're talking about almost 1 million barrels a day, which is taking the two largest refineries in the world to make up for that demand.
Yeah, so a lot of people who claim that there's no rational reason for price changes in the summer try to dismiss demand fluctuations this season. There is no dismissing the fact that during the summer months, demand for fuel and for everything else goes up. We're looking at some of the metrics that you mentioned earlier. Packed beverage So basically the stuff you pick up to take to picnics and parties and barbecues. During the summer months, convenience stores sales go up almost 18%. 18% is a huge jump for seasonality switch. And it's something that, you cannot dispute these facts. Summer months are a great time to be in the convenience store industry.
Yeah, they really are. And when you look at the other metrics that we collect, we look at one of the questions we asked last September is when you go inside to a convenience store, pick one of the three. Do you go in primarily to get a beverage, primarily to get food, or primarily to get something else, whether that something else is general merchandise, cigarettes, lottery, etc.? 49% of customers who come inside the store say the last time they went, it was primarily to get a beverage. So you're talking about half of our customer base is thinking about drinks. And when you increase drink sales by 18% over the summer months, it's some pretty good times, because a lot of times if they're buying a drink, if they're buying whether it's a bottle of water, a liter of soda or 2 liters of soda for a party, or beer, which is also up about 9% in the summer months, you're buying something else. You're buying bags of chips. You're buying sandwiches. You're buying something. So fuel. So it's a huge multiplier over those summer months when the weather is nice and people are outdoors.
Your consumer surveys show this. NACS Consumer Intercept from the NACS Research Department shows the same thing. Half of the trips to convenience stores, more than half, are there for refreshment. Define your refreshment how you want. But people are going in there to get something to refresh themselves. That's what we're here for, especially when the weather's hot. Now, weather is such an important factor. A couple years ago, I remember you and I were looking at numbers. January, February, usually pretty dull times for the industry, not our best performance months of the year. A couple years ago, weather in the winter months was fantastic. Beautiful bluebird days, sunny days, warm. And our members in those areas are having great weather. We're reporting record sales. It is amazing. You think convenience stores, you think the stereotype, you think some of the TV shows and movies, and go, well, it's just a convenience store. Quite frankly, convenience stores are the center of fun. And when people are out having fun, the convenience industry is where they stop to fuel that fun and keep it going. And it is a great phenomenon to watch. Well,
and right now, John, we have our traditional, every quarter we ask retailers about what do you think about the next quarter. We're fielding responses for the upcoming third quarter, and that'll be a future podcast. But what we've seen in previous quarters, we asked the question, what factors, open-ended, what factors do you think will most affect your business over the coming 3 months? The same two things come to the fore. Now, there's also a mention about more food sales or something like that as the industry goes more towards fresh and healthy food. But number one and number 1A are gas prices. What will the gas price be based on what will the oil price be? And that's something that certainly you're largely dependent upon the oil price in terms of what the gas price is. So that's a little beyond your control. The other one's also beyond your control, and that's the weather. But if you got fairly stable gas prices and fairly good weather, you're going to have a pretty good year. In the last couple of years, that has been the case.
Yeah, the gas price function is so critical to economic behavior. NACS for the last 3.5 years has been surveying consumers every single month, asking them questions like, what's the price of fuel in your market? How do you feel about the economy? And to what extent do fuel prices affect your feelings about the economy? And when we started that process, Jeff, remember we were anticipating, hypothesizing, is the effect of fuel prices an absolute effect? So $3, $4, $3.50, or is it a directional effect? Last month it was $2.50. This month it's $2.75. Next month it's $3. And what we found is a combination. But at the price points we've seen in 2015 to 16, people aren't nearly as angst. Now, in 2016, you look at the transition of fuel prices from middle of February until the beginning of summer, which is the transition season to cleaner burning gasoline. For the last 10, 15 years, we've noticed a pretty significant increase in prices, around 50 cents a year, independent of oil prices. This year, we've seen about a 60-cent increase in 2016, almost entirely because of the increase in crude oil prices. That being said, nobody's really paying attention because prices are still relatively low compared to prior years. And so I think that sentiment of consumer angst on fuel prices, yeah, there's an absolute value. At a certain price point, people are going to trip and they're going to start getting upset. But the directional element, which I thought would be the predominant factor in making people pessimistic, has not played out. And I think that's an encouraging factor for the industry.
Yeah, and just trying to think that gas prices earlier this year nationwide were about $1.70, $1.80 a gallon. And it's almost, they're $2.40 or so, $2.30 right now as we look at the beginning of the summer, and we'll see where prices go from there. But probably about typical in terms of a given year for the increase or the change in prices between the first week of February and where they could possibly peak for the year. So all those are in line. But thinking about the gas being mid or low twos, we first topped $3 a gallon in 2005. So it's been more than a decade where $3 gas or so has been part of your reality. And when you're seeing prices lower than that, I think that's one of the things that has changed the dynamic with consumers. They're not seeing $3 gas. They're not seeing $4 gas. $2 gas-ish feels pretty comfortable for them right now.
When you and I first started talking about gas prices 15 years ago, we were anticipating the coming of a $2 price point would be a huge, significant hit to the United States consumer. But we also hypothesized that people get used to a new normal. And I think what you just said, they have gotten used to $3 plus gasoline, and so anything less than that, hey, that's a pretty good deal. I'm curious to know how long prices need to be sub $3 until $3 becomes a pain point again that they're no longer used to as a new normal. Are they getting to a point where sub $2.50 is a new normal? And if the market progresses above that, then they'll start reacting as they did when we crossed a $2 and $3 barrier 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's something that's just not attainable. I think when we ask consumers at what price will you change your behavior, it never gets to the point where the price is now. There's always a future element. Well, this may affect whatever. We do see a tightening. When you see a tightening, and when it gets down to that 70-cent, 80-cent differential before they switch over, that's when you start to notice that okay, there's something going on. Right now it's about $1.10, the differential. But on a given month, it's kind of like that scene in Poltergeist where the mom is running down the hall to go get the kid, and the hall keeps extending.
Right.
So no matter where the price is, that end of the hall is really tough to get to. And that's I think, one of the things, the dynamics that we're seeing with gas prices. But it's a really good thing this summer, and consumers or retailers are very optimistic about what the summer holds for them and already has meant this summer.
Well, think about it. So kids get out of school. They're having fun. They're going to camp. They're going to the pool. People are going to the beach. They're going on vacations. Summer is a time when people usually relax. They actually enjoy being more often than usual. So you take the negative inference of the past 5 years of a high fuel price, of a struggling recessionary economy, and you take those two negative elements out, and what are you left with? You're left with a summer, which in the D.C. area so far has not hit us yet. It's been the beginning of the summer was very mild. I think it's been that way in many areas. And you have people happy. People are feeling good about themselves. People are feeling good about what's going on. So they're coming to convenience stores. They're spending a little bit more money inside, hopefully. They're buying a few new things, trying some new stuff. They're spending time with their families. And they're not walking out looking at the price sign and going, oh, man, I can't believe I got to pay that. You know, for this industry, that's a wonderful thing. And hopefully that good feeling can continue. And there's some way to maintain that positive customer relationship going into the fall and the winter when things will change weather-wise and hopefully not economically.
Now, we talked about drinks. We talked about food a little bit. We talked about fuel. One other thing that I'm still putting something together and looking at is ice. How much ice do we sell? How much frozen product do we sell? Our industry collectively sells about $2 billion a year in ice.
$2 billion with a B?
$2 billion, yes. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to determine the ice universe, which is probably a good name for a sci-fi show or something like that. But near as I can tell, I would imagine that we sell most of the bagged ice in the country because some liquor stores sell it, some grocery stores sell it, but you generally don't go to the grocery store to find out to get your bag of ice. You'll go to the convenience store and get that. So $2 billion is a big number. And when you buy that, you're usually buying ice because you're going to have a good time. So not only do you have ice, but then you have the ice that is in all the dispensed beverages, whether you're getting a soda or something like that. And then you have the ice, of course, with the product that's most associated with a convenience store, which is the frozen dispensed. At 7-Eleven, known as the Slurpee, or it's a Slushie or a Hush Puppy or various other brands that they have. And then, of course, you have ice cream, whether it's Pops or something like that. So that'd be a cool thing. We're trying to pull together those numbers. What is the ice universe and what is the convenience store share of the ice universe? And it is important because if you think about the convenience store industry, it was created on ice. The first convenience store was Southland Ice Company back in the days when you bought ice to put in a container before refrigerators. This guy stayed open a little extra hours and started selling other products. And the ice company became a convenience store, and that led to the whole convenience store industry. So we were founded on ice. Yeah. We are founded on what goes on in the summer months. And obviously it looks like 2016 is going to be another one of those good years. It's
all about refreshment, man. And ice is what you need to refresh during the summer months. So, let the sun blaze, let the heat rise, and come to convenience stores and fill up and keep yourself going, keep yourself cool. It's a good time to be out and about. It's a good time to swing by your local convenience store and partake of some of our refreshments.
And when we get those ice numbers, we'll bring vanilla, we'll bring Mr. T, we'll bring all the ice wrappers together and maybe play some songs and talk about ice sales in convenience stores.
Summertime.
On Convenience Matters. So thank you once again for listening. If you have suggestions for favorite rappers to come on and talk about ice, or how about just good topics that we can talk about or you can talk about on the air, send us a note. Go to our website, nacsonline.com/podcasts.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information about the National Association of Convenience Stores, go to nacsonline.com.